And we're going to look at what the jobs of the future may be and whether we will all be made redundant by technology. What are the ethical implications of it, and what are the potential disruptions we may see in the jobs market from an increasingly automated world? So please, can I welcome up to the stage Chris Jones, who's the Director of Technology and Analysis at the UK Foreign Office. Chris, come on up, please take a seat. Dame Wendy Hall is with us, member of the UN High-Level Advisory Board on AI. Adrian Joseph, who's the Technology Advisory Board member at NatWest Group, and Manish Vyas, who's Executive Director and Board member at Prodapt. Please welcome, take a seat.
Nice to be with you.
And I also feel this is a topic that so many of you in the room will have an opinion on. So I'm going to make you sing for your supper. I'm going to wander amongst you. And if you have questions, please stick your hand up, because it makes my job much easier if you ask the questions. But let me start, first of all. I posed that question, and Dame Wendy, maybe I can start with you. You're an optimist in all of this, aren't you? That yes, AI will change the way that we consider the world of work, but you think it is a good thing.
Overall, I think it's a good thing. I would like to answer a different question, which is...
That's not allowed.
I'll answer the question, and I'll pick up on the last panel, which is, yes, we want equality and fairness in access to AI, because to prepare people for careers, we should be preparing them now for future AI careers. If you're in a primary school or early secondary school, by the time you go out to work, the world of work will be very different to what it is today. There will be careers which we won't even have thought of, both using AI and actually regulating AI, auditing AI, prompt engineering AI. I got that idea from my friend here. And we should be preparing kids for that today. I can talk more about that. But in terms of, these things aren't free. So the point about we want everyone to have access. We were doing the sums yesterday at the University of Southampton. We have 25,000 students aiming at 30,000. Oh, can't you hear me? No, possibly. Can you hear any of that? Do I have to start again?
We can hear it.
No, we could hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Because this is this is so important. This is not free stuff, and in order to prepare people, we've got to train them with AI tools. We were working out on the back of an envelope yesterday at the University of Southampton. We have 25,000 students aiming at 30,000 and 5,000 staff. It will cost us millions of pounds per year to provide access to all our staff and students with some sort of generative AI tool. Millions. Now, I know the I don't know your name, the lovely moderator.
Lucy.
You said, all technology when it's introduced costs money. Don't think we can next year provide all our staff and students with generative AI tools. We can't. We have to work out how to do that. But we should absolutely be having a level playing field and making sure that every student that leaves a secondary school now or a university has some idea about what AI is. They don't all have to be machine learning programmers, but some idea about what AI is and how it might affect their world of work in the future. I could say a lot more, but I'm sure you're itching to move on.
Adrian, I want to bring you in at this stage because I know you have to leave, so when you do, by all means, head off, but I want to hear from you before you do. And Wendy poses that thing about, change is coming, change is here. Are we ready for it?
Some of us are, I think, but when I think about the world of work, if you look at the British public, the number one fear of AI is, 45% of them fear that their jobs are going to be taken. 45% of the British public feel that. Another 35% believe that AI is going to lead to a lack of creativity and problem solving in the work that they do. So when I think about the future of work, I think about three impacts, and they all begin with A. The first is that some jobs will be automated. Those that are highly repeatable, high data entry, they will be. Look at what IBM did with their HR team, where they used their own AI to reduce that team from 700 people to 50 people, 700 to 50. The head of IBM believes that 30% of back office roles will be automated. That's 26,000 jobs just in IBM. So that's the first A, automation. Second A is augmentation, and we will all be augmented. We are already. We'll either have co-pilots in our lives or agents in our lives, and that's going to help us to be much more productive. It'll take things away from us that we don't need to spend our time on. And the third A that I don't think people are really talking about enough are these additional jobs. So prompt engineers, yes. But at the moment we have 30 times more people building AI than thinking about ethics and regulation and audit. My daughter just graduated with philosophy and literature. She was hunting around about what job should she do, right? I said, why don't you think about being an AI ethicist? She couldn't get it. Prompt engineering, she's now been a prompt engineer for 2 months now. She's helping to train Llama 3, which is Meta's open source products. She's helping to train those outputs to give better answers. She didn't know that this job existed, and so there's a big job to help with connecting skills to the capabilities that our young people have.
And Chris, who is responsible for that education? You know, telling people about these jobs that we don't really know. They've never really been a career option until now. People don't necessarily have the right skills. As an authority, be that government or otherwise, how do we plan? How do we prepare for this?
Yeah, so it's a really good. Can you hear me on the mic, or can I just project? Right, great.
My mic wasn't switched on, by the way. That's why it wasn't working. I've just switched it on, but I'm a technologist.
Do we have to wind you up?
Look, it's a really good question. I think the reality here is things are moving very quickly, and nobody really knows the answers. So, you know, even Wendy, who's actually a real expert in this, doesn't know the answers. But I agree with her that we should tend towards being optimistic.
Fine.
You just told us that there are lots of things we don't know. So I think the trick here is about continuing a multi-stakeholder conversation. Yeah. So we need government people talking with AI specialists, with educators, with people who understand the civil society's implications of technologies like AI. And it's only together in those conversations where we start to understand, A, what's important, B, what we need to do about it, and C, how we fund the right programs. So governments clearly have a big and important role. So we own part of the education system. But I think it's only by bringing in that diverse range of voices and expertises that we can get to those answers quickly enough.
And Manish, I want to bring you in at this point because you've talked a lot about leadership and what leadership looks like in this sort of sphere. Because how does someone manage a change of this magnitude?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And first of all, going back to the previous panel, one thing that you don't want to change, coming back to leadership, is stern, very strong leaders like you, Wendy, to scold people by saying, no, you're wrong, and you know my mic was working. Absolutely, that will not change. Thankfully, it will not change. You need strong leadership in an AI world. AI is not going to do the most important job of decision making. Many years ago, I went through a surgery. What I remember about the surgery is when I gained consciousness, my surgeon was peering over me and with a beaming face and said, it was successful. There were decisions I had to make that I couldn't have left to anything else. I couldn't have left it to you because you were sleeping, by the way. And I took those decisions. I said, thank God it was a Dr. Human and not Dr. AI. So that thankfully will not change. What will indeed change, though, is some amazing stuff that has already been spoken about and is being done around data, around analysis, around repeatability of many, many things that will need to happen. For example, there is a company right here in the UK that around sustainability and climate and around waste management has peered over billions and some 32 billion waste items just in 2022 and decided and figured that about 87 million tons of waste need not have gone to landfill. That AI can do. What AI cannot do on top of it is, hence, what next? What next has to still be a human thing. So I do believe that leadership in the AI world will be a continuum, thankfully, of many things that we continue to do, which is empathy, ethics, bringing the human aspect to decision making. And yet AI is this massive mindset shift that will happen in allowing us to analyze and work on data so that we just don't work on guts and old knowledge, but on what really data gives us.
Yeah. And Adrian, before you go, give me a sense of how we equip the population to deal with the change that is coming from a fear point of view. And you were right to point to the statistics of the number of people who fear that their job will disappear. And it's that word disappear. It's not about change, adapt, become something different. You have a new powerful tool to use. It is that fear that their job disappears overnight. And how do you prepare people for that?
So there's a massive correlation between understanding of AI and acceptance of it. Massive correlation. And I know that many of the universities have demonstrated this. And so I think it's a lot about making sure that people actually understand what AI is and what it isn't. and the types of use cases that it's valid for. And the use cases for Gen AI are very, very different from the use cases for more traditional AI. That's really good around prediction and classification and so forth. But Gen AI is really good at many other things around kind of knowledge, bringing that together, or personalization at scale, or software engineering supply chain, right? I've seen examples where we can take maybe 40% efficiency gains by combining, the co-pilots that generate code that are then accepted by software engineers, and I'm seeing more of that happening. So I think it's about knowledge, about understanding, about education, and we need to get better, I think, at matching, skill sets around. We'll need AI auditors. We will need a lot more AI regulators than we've got. We'll need data fluency coaches. We need people who can translate between the technology and the use cases that are most going to be valid for this. So I feel pretty optimistic in many respects, but we need all of society, civil society, government, academia, and the government to come together to enable this to happen.
Does anyone have questions? Stick your hand up. I've got plenty more for the panel, so I'll come to you in just a second. Please do just stick your hand up, and I will come over and tell me who you are and who your question is for, so please do. Wendy, we heard there, Manish talking about healthcare, Adrian there talking about, prompt engineers and so much more. Talk to me about what jobs you fear or potentially will disappear, and what you are still optimistic that we will have a need for.
There's so much hype and scaremongering out there. Jobs are not going to disappear overnight. Technology history tells us there will be more jobs created than lost. There will be some short-term losers, but it's not an overnight thing. I had my first experience, I don't know if anyone else has done this, of being in a driverless taxi in San Francisco last week. Anyone else done that? Waymo? In San Francisco? It's fun, isn't it?
Scary.
It is a tad scary. I'd had a lot of gin and tonic before I got in my driverless taxi.
Is that what it took to get in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't... and I was with someone who had an account and was used to doing this, and it was quiet, and we weren't going up any of the San Francisco hills. But when I spoke to the taxi drivers, they're not worried about their jobs because they see this is a niche thing at the moment, and they see the Waymos, the driverless taxis, getting stuck, right, and not having to come out and be rescued because they can't get out of the position they've got themselves into. This is by no means a perfect technology yet. This stuff is going to happen over time. The industry, I would say this is probably, I was talking to my niece who's just had a new baby, and I was telling her about the Waymo taxi, and she was saying her older son had been looking at, I took a video of me in this taxi with this no driver. I was talking to it though. You can't actually talk to it.
Isn't that the best bit about not having drivers? You don't have to talk to them.
Well, you see, but it took a bend very sharply. And what about if it goes in the wrong direction or you get stuck? You are stuck. You're on your own, right, with this nothing. Okay, you have to call the HQ to get you out of whatever situation you're in. So you've got, it's not something you do lightly, I don't think. But my niece was saying that her son was fascinated with this video I sent them. And I said, yeah, well, he's probably in a generation that will never learn to drive a car or own a car. Right? That's what's coming. But there will be a need for us to be transported around the country, and the services will be different. There will be lots of new jobs created around a whole new form of transport that hopefully, Geospatial Commission, will be linked up. So you'll get your driverless taxi to your driverless train, did I say that? And then, and then to your plane. I'm never getting in a plane without a pilot, by the way, just so everybody, but it's a whole new world out there, but it's a Brave New World, I was going to say. Well, be careful about that, knowing what Brave New World's about. And I'm very optimistic about it, but we need to be preparing people for thinking about new types of jobs for the future, and particularly, by the way, the teachers. I'm working with a local sixth form college. They have no help from government at the moment at all, and I'm really worried about this. Government's done stuff at higher education. I know all about this, but there's nothing happening at the moment to help teachers in any type of school talk about AI. And it is not just a subset of computer science. It's much, much wider than that. They're getting no help at all from government at the moment on how to teach it.
Let's get into some questions. So tell me name and who your question is for, please.
My name is Andrew Cowan. I'm the CEO of Future Care UK. I'm absolutely passionate about education. I work with universities. My question to the panel is, job transformation is synonymous with education. We need to start looking, I'd like to know the panel's view, we need to start looking at not university education, but actually education of our youth, our infants, on the basis that unless they understand what's going on and can be protected, then you're not going to have the jobs in the future. Would the panel like to comment, please?
They will have jobs in the future. They will.
So, I mean,
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to. It depends on sectors, right? I think we see very different impacts depending on what sectors you're in. But you know, look at, to Wendy's point, the top growing jobs, 65% of top growing jobs on LinkedIn at the minute didn't exist 20 years ago. Some MIT research that was done that showed that in 2018, most of the jobs that were created didn't exist in 1940. We just couldn't predict them. And so it's very hard for us to think through what the various applications are, but I think we're all going to be a lot more productive than we were. You know, there will be you know, discontinuities and social impacts, and we need to think about that really carefully. We need to maybe think about things like taxing algorithms, right, to provide support and training. I think that's an interesting idea from my perspective, but I don't know, other people may have views on this. Tax the algorithms, yeah.
Yeah. Manish, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
Sure, but,
maybe a 3-second at the cost of sounding cheesy. I work for a company called Prodapt, which really came from proactive adaptation. What Wendy said earlier about the gradual shift, this hype needs to die down, is because thankfully the history has indeed taught us that every technology shift has given us enough time to prepare for that. In education as well, it will allow us to do that. Not as exciting as maybe a driverless taxi, but let's talk about something which is a bit boring but equally important, which is changes in an enterprise. And a lot of jobs will shift there, not necessarily disappear. One thing that we are working on, for example, is a job title called Autonomics Architect. That's not just a technology role. It is a role which involves, of course, understanding the technology called AI, but applying that at a human engineering level in terms of what different departments of any company, whether it is HR, finance, payroll, what they need to do to adopt AI so that they could serve their respective customers better. That requires education. It need not, you know, we don't need to intervene at an infancy level, but it requires intervention at a career infancy level, very early on, to try and understand and adopt technology in a much better fashion so that it serves you over a longer period of time.
Can I just come in on this as well?
Yeah,
so
sure.
it's a really good question, and at the danger of sounding like everybody else, look, I'm really optimistic about this as well. So, as Wendy says, jobs are not just going to disappear overnight. And the reality is, AI is not going to take anybody's job. A human exploiting AI is going to take somebody else's job. So there's a bit here about how
It's a really important distinction.
How do we evolve?
very important.
And you know, the role I think here of schools, yeah, so there needs to be sort of a formal education structure which says this is what a large language model is, you know, this is what bias is about, this is how you deal with discrimination. But a lot of this is about access. You know, if there's one thing I want everybody to take away from this, go and educate yourselves on these things. They're all out there. You know, create a Hugging Face account so you can get access to all sorts of models that are there. And just by having that awareness and being able to share that, just creates that sort of a higher watermark in the awareness and the education level. That will get us a million miles away from where we are today.
Yeah, and I mean, that's to Adrian's point, isn't it? To know is to not be scared of it. There's another question here. So.
Thank you very much. My name is Utkarsh. I'm the CEO of Network Capital and a PhD student at Oxford. I'm really interested in the concept of achievement gaps. And I do know, being a techno-optimist, that there will be more jobs, but I'm not sure if people will still have the sense of achievement that comes from the pride of doing things. Achievement is typically comes from doing difficult things that are competently caused, and there are legitimate fears that achievement will be
Types
lower.
of jobs that are going to go first are the boring, repetitive jobs that no one wants to do, actually. I mean, a lot of people have to do them, and look how people are much more enjoying working partly from home because their jobs are so boring, right? There's a lot of it. And that's, I mean, and things like this, there's a company in the room that's doing cancer tests with cancer tests, and then there's also, what's the company that does the breast cancer? Cara Medical, where they're showing that the AI can detect cancer faster and more efficiently than human beings. That will not take people's jobs. That will relieve, look how the health service is desperate for staff. It will relieve highly trained staff to do more important jobs, decision-making jobs, working with patients. And hopefully, if we get it right, make the health services around the world more efficient, more effective. And those are the types of jobs that are going to go first. So there will be white-collar jobs in the old phrase, but they will be the ones that will go first. Anything that is repetitive, boring, with data, those are the sorts of jobs that will go.
Loads of questions. Let me squeeze through this man in the amazing green jacket.
Hi, morning, afternoon even. My name is Raj Kulasingham. I'm a lawyer at law firm called Dentons. I'm also NED and a tech investor. So I kind of see a few things from the seat that I sit in. And the one thing, a question for you is that certainly in legal tech, for example, what's going to happen, and I'm telling you it's happening already, that the bottom of the legal services will go. Same with medical, same with accountancy, because some of this earlier stuff will go. And I'm seeing it. But hang on. I know you want to... My question is, that how do you train people to get to the next level when that bottom level is gone? Because a good lawyer today is not someone who relies on AI. He relies on experience and intuition, and he's a business person, he's a commercial person. Same with the doctor, same with a tax advisor.
We have time. These gentlemen here answered your question. We have time to do that. And my father was an accountant. He retired in 1980 before there were any computers in use in his industry. Can you turn that phone off, please? Sorry, I'm a teacher. So he retired.
You'd be in detention later.
Before there were any computers anywhere. So everybody, he could divide pounds, shillings and pence by pounds, shillings and pence. Everybody in the office he ran did everything by hand, which is all copying ledgers, right? All those jobs have gone. But there are more jobs in the finance industry than you can shake a stick at these days. What we have done is enabled and let the computers do the grunt work, and we can do the creative, exciting, more challenging work. And that's happened over a period of time. And this is exactly what you said. We do have that time. Do not be fooled into thinking it's all going to happen and go to hell in a handcart next year. It isn't. We have the time. We have to be sensible as a society. We have to make sure that the AI we're using is safe, and it's we need to regulate, we need to license, we need to all these things. We're working on it, but there is time.
Can I just make a comment on the health service? I mean, I met the head of AI for the NHS, and he said, you know what, by 2025 there are going to be 360,000 jobs that we can't fill in the NHS. I mean, desperate times. And he said, you know what, bring on the algorithms that are going to take some of those jobs, right? And we know from the research from the Alan Turing, for example, that NHS staff that are using large language models or AI are 20% more efficient. Look at education. 10% of teachers dropped out of the UK last year. 40% of teachers are now using large language models to advise on their learning plans and so on. So, you know, there are critical skills that we need and depend on. Look at the quality of our services across so many parts of the UK at the moment. And I feel really optimistic that many of those gaps are going to be filled, and people are going to actually feel a higher level of achievement, to your earlier question, because they'll be able to get stuff done that they've not been able to do for a long time.
Listen, I have a job that, I just want to answer that earlier question. I have a job where I work a lot with software engineers. And when I ask them this question, I'll tell you the answer first. The answer is a vehement yes. When I say, are you happy now with your job that you will be able to write software that can write software faster. They are extremely happy. So nobody wants to write slow software. So are they excited about AI? Absolutely, bingo. I mean, they are delighted. Yes, there is an oddball out there who says, oh, I used to like writing software in the previous way.
No, they
I'm
still
sure there are
will.
multiple things
They
he can
still
do.
will. Just like we do all sorts of things. We still read printed books. You don't have to,
Exactly.
but people still do. We still go to the cinema to watch films. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we still play. There's all sorts of things we do that we don't have to do, but we do it because we like it.
Sorry, I just want to, so my question was specific on achievement gap. I, as a CEO of a large company, I feel a lot of sense of achievement when I do wonderful things and I can get a higher return on investment. The gap, philosophers legitimately argue, will grow. And this, the achievement, it's like a philosophical concept. So I worry it may not be as pleasant.
I thought I'd answered your question, because actually what's going to go are the things that don't give you a sense of achievement, right? You'll get the jobs in the future, just like, if I'd had to climb the chimneys as a child, that wouldn't have been a fulfilling achievement, and all the jobs that from those 100 years ago that have gone, that we would think, thank heavens, even like going down a mine. Remember all those fights in the 80s about saving the coal industry so my children could go down a mine? Why? This is we don't. There will be. I'm very optimistic that the jobs in the future will give much more sense of achievement. Just as I said with my father, right? How many people wanted to sit in a day in, day out copying figures from one column to another? I mean, that's so soul-destroyingly boring. Okay. Nowadays, if you work in the finance industry, all the computers do all that stuff. You do something that's more creative and exciting, and that's why I thought I'd answered your question. I'm sorry. I think that's the answer, is we will get more, just the same with people in the NHS. They won't have to sit and look at slides all the time. The AI will do that. They'll be able to talk to the patients and sit with the doctors and do stuff we need highly trained people for.
Chris, briefly, and then we've got time for one final question.
Look, I guess I'd ask you, what causes you to have achievement? And I suspect it's not sitting at your desk and ploughing through 130 emails. I certainly don't get that.
But you have to do it.
Exactly, but I have to do it. There's no reason that I should do it. And frankly, if there's a Chris GPT that could do that for me, I would love that. What I get a sense of achievement from is sitting down with somebody face to face and negotiating the position that I've been paid to go negotiate. That's where I get achievement. An algorithm is not going to replace that. It might help me do it better and quicker. And frankly, I'll take all the help I can get. But I think it's where does achievement come from? And it's not volume, it's quality.
Yeah, I think I just want to add to that, and I have a question as well. It's all about abstraction at the end of the day. And then again, there are people who have different varying skill sets. Some of us who possibly have ADHD or dyslexia. It's a great tool, actually, to get things done. And even in terms of understanding, you could kind of go down to any level of understanding. And if you're a coder, you don't have to know all your lines of code. Today, you write a few pieces of text, and you get a bunch of code to plug in. So you could be a Java developer, but then you don't know how the backend works. So with you've got your Java as a core skill, but then for your database you're using ChatGPT or whatever it may be. So that's the sort of I feel that's where we are going with AI. But then again, I'm Divya. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Journey On. We do train tickets on the blockchain. We use conversational AI and blockchain, and we work with the government. So I think one of the one of the problems I see right now with all of these models is that all of them are trained and pre-trained already. So if I'm going to prompt and say, I want a picture that has the style of Van Gogh and so on and so forth, these individuals are not incentivized at this point in time, because these models are already built and whatever data has gone into the system is already in there. And so then, and there is no way right now to incentivize. And in many ways, that should have been part of that algorithm or building process. Building process where we should have incentivized people to, feed into the model.
Oh, well, it's immature technology. Don't let the companies tell you that they can sing and dance with this stuff. They can't. And there's also, as I said earlier, there's huge cost to this stuff. Huge costs. The companies have got. Why haven't we heard of GPT-5 yet? Well, because of the cost of producing it, the cost of getting the data, the fact that they're getting the data off the internet and they're being sued to hell for all sorts of things, and then there's the energy costs. And what people are beginning to do is use ChatGPT to do a simple piece of arithmetic, which you could either do in your head or do on a calculator or something. And do you know how much that costs you in terms of energy to do a simple thing on ChatGPT? There is a wonderful podcast on the BBC. I'm going to give you a plug.
Thank you.
Alex Krotowski and Kevin Fong. There's a wonderful podcast called How Green Is My AI? And the figures they release tell you in that. It's something like you do a simple calculation on ChatGPT, and that's the equivalent of catching a long-haul flight to America in terms of use of resources. You wouldn't do that, would you, if you knew that? These are the sorts of things we've got to learn as a society. This is not the answer to everything.
I'm in so much trouble because we've gone so long over time
good,
and
isn't
I
it?
went rogue. But while we're plugging, Priya's also part of an amazing BBC show called AI Decoded. So check that out on the BBC iPlayer if you like. Priya's involved as well. So it's fabulous. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you to the panel. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your questions too as well. Thank you.